From houses swarming with demons to teenage girls levitating,
Here are 10 creepiest cases of demonic possession.
Number 10. The Smurl Poltergeist. A horrific haunting took place in western Pennsylvania from 1985 to 1987 against the Smurl family that we see in this photo. And you can tell here that something just doesn't seem right from their expressions on their face. Strange things first started to occur when bizarre stains began to appear, toilets would randomly flush, and when one of the televisions spontaneously combusted, they knew something was wrong. These were just little annoying occurrences that would happen to the Smurl family, and things would get a whole lot scarier after a shadow man was spotted walking through a wall in the kitchen. The 13-year-old girl Janet became possessed and began to levitate. Everyone in the family became affected with Jack being assaulted by a succubus, a demon who's sent to steal the soul of a man. Both daughters also began turning violently ill. The house reeked of rotting flesh, and the family couldn't seem to escape the ghost until 1987, when the fourth exorcism was performed. Finally, in the same year, they decided to get a new home. This story was turned into a book and a movie known as The Haunting. Number 9. Clara der Monacelli. If all of a sudden one of your classmates could begin speaking 3 languages like French, Polish, and German, move teachers around by motioning them with their finger, and make inhuman noises, would you believe they were possessed? A simple detention wasn't enough to keep this girl out of trouble. This is the case for Marie Selle, a young girl from South Africa who began to show signs of demonic powers. She allegedly made an agreement with the devil, which led to her possession. That's usually something we advise you not to do. The 16-year-old girl exhibited superhuman strength. Even a nun reported that she had never heard such sounds from any animal in Africa. Her classmates saw her levitate 5 feet in the air. The priest who tried to perform the exorcism on her was actually strangled. She might have looked something like this in this photo. Apparently, the exorcism was successful, but a horrific case nonetheless. Although this might exhibit some signs of mental illness, it's hard to explain how she was able to speak 3 languages that she had no prior knowledge of. And then once the exorcism was complete, she completely forgot them. Number 8. Michael Taylor. When gruesome crimes take place in seemingly quiet towns, it almost seems to make more sense that some type of entity has taken over the body for these to be committed. Michael had enrolled into a cult-like ceremony in Great Britain with a new group of people whom he was unaware were actually devil worshippers. The ceremony he took place in apparently involved him partaking in the worst sins one can even imagine. This newspaper clipping insists that the ceremony he took part in actually turned him into a homicidal maniac. His wife, aged 29, was the love of his life, and no one could have ever thought that something like this could have happened to her. Worried about his well-being, they performed an exorcism on him. The priest claimed that they had removed 40 demons from his body, but a few actually remained. Not long after, Michael's wife accused him of having an affair with one of the cult members, and he went into a complete rage, leading to the end of Christine's life. He was found roaming the streets shortly after, dripping in blood. Number 7. The Son of Sam. In 1976, New York City, random shootings terrorized the community, and police had no idea who was responsible. They, however, began receiving letters from someone who called himself the Son of Sam. For more than a year, police were dumbfounded on who could be committing these horrible crimes. 6 people have been found shot with a .44 caliber revolver. Finally, the man, David Berkowitz, took full responsibility for the murders. The reason was a tad bizarre to say the least. While living in an apartment, he continuously heard barking from a neighbor's dog. He said the dog was possessed by a demon, and his barks were orders from the spirit to go out and kill. David also claims to have been part of a satanic cult where murder was just a part of the ritual. Could the barking of a dog really be one of Satan's messengers? Number 6. Julia. This is one of our most recent, well-documented cases of possessed beings among us. Dr. Richard E. Gallagher is a psychiatric professor at New York Medical College, and he was simply baffled by this finding. This is one of the few rare cases where demonic possession was diagnosed by a medical professional, and you thought your kids misbehaved. Try having a doctor tell you your child literally has demons. The tone of her voice would sporadically change from sounding like a man to a woman. She also baffled Minnie by speaking languages she never had any previous knowledge of. You also might not want to be in the room with this girl if you're hiding a secret. She tended to reveal information that she could have never known about. She still shows signs of demonic possession to this day. The well-respected professor claims that possession is much more common than we should expect, though it's still rare. This is apparently the only American psychiatrist who openly believes in demonic possession, but this happened so recently that many feel as though this could be a true case. We encourage you to look into this one on your own, as it appears to be the most documented out of all the cases. Number 5. Amityville Horror House. What would you do if you finally found your dream house, but it turned out that it was actually swarmed with demons? Located at 112 Ocean Avenue, this could be the most haunted house in the USA by a long shot. It was supposed to be a quiet, peaceful neighborhood, but still within close distance to the Big Apple. In 1974, a man named Ronald DeFeo shot and killed 6 members of his family in a cold-blooded fashion. The little village of Amityville wasn't accustomed to this kind of crime. A family bought the house for a bargain of only $80,000 not too long after, but had no idea what they were getting themselves into. The man of the house, George, would wake up every morning at 3:15, which turned out to be the estimated time of the crime. The wife had vivid, reoccurring nightmares of the murder scene, and countless paranormal activities continued to happen. The family only stayed 28 days before moving out. The home was apparently sold for $850,000 in November 2016. And no reports of demonic infestations just yet. After knowing the crimes that took place here, the thought has to still be lingering at least. For more detail, check out the book, Amityville Horror: A True Story. Number 4. Black Magic Possessions. Do you think there's some possible way to direct demons or spirits to an intended target? Practitioners of voodoo and witchcraft believe yes, and with proper materials, one can cause someone to become possessed by demons, or with horrible luck, or even turn them into a zombie, as we mentioned before. Although the symptoms might be slightly different from what we're accustomed to, a victim of a black magic spell will suffer from things such as financial problems, obesity, or extreme weight loss, forgetfulness, feelings of hopelessness, or just a lack of interest in life. Voodoo and black magic are taken seriously in places like Haiti and Africa, and there have been quite a few disturbing cases of the victims. The person's life will essentially turn to hell, and they don't understand why exactly. In theory, the voodoo master is calling upon demons to haunt these victims who are a little bit more discreet with their possessions than in other cases. In cases of white magic, good spirits are invoked to help someone, but black magic is for the purposes of evil doing. Number 3. Annalise Michelle. Could mental illness be a form of demonic possession in a sense? It's easy to see how a religious family could confuse demonic possession for the case of Annalise Michelle. Growing up as a devout Catholic, Annalise was your average girl living in Germany at the time, and her parents couldn't have been more proud. But for some strange reason, she began randomly becoming frightened each time she saw any religious figures. Her hallucinations were quite intense, and for example, she would look at a priest, but all she could see was a horrifying demon trying to snatch her soul. She refused to eat or drink, and then told her parents she no longer wants to see the doctor either. So instead, they bring her to priests to see what they could do for her. They performed an exorcism where some pretty creepy stuff took place that will lead you to believe that this is a real case of demonic possession. The priest claimed that her body was being possessed by several different spirits, including Lucifer, Cain, Judas, Nero, and even Hitler. If you still haven't checked out her audio recordings just yet, let us know if you think she's possessed in the comment section. You might not be able to understand it because it's in German, but it's truly frightening. Number 2. Elizabeth Knapp. The demonic possession of Elizabeth Knapp was one of the earliest documented cases of this kind of thing, and it frightened many people. In the 1670s, not long after colonists had settled in Massachusetts, many people developed fear of witches and demons. The documentation of her possession was quite unique, and it was seen as a thoughtful scientific diagnosis. A doctor was called to examine her. They again couldn't come up with a known disease and claimed she was possessed by the devil. Her strange behavior as a Puritan woman would include things such as screaming hysterically and saying random things like money, sin, and misery. In the city of Groton, just 32 miles northwest of Boston, everyone who lived there was brought up with a strict Puritan atmosphere. Elizabeth apparently sold her soul for money and youth. Her appearance might have changed, but she began speaking in bizarre voices. She seemed to have disappeared, and no one knew for sure what happened to her. Some claim she suffered from psychological problems, from the pressure to behave a certain way that was expected from a Puritan woman. Maybe there were truly witches in this area at this time that were rightfully burned. And number 1, the Perrin Family. What started off like many horror films became a reality for the Perrin family. The house they moved into in Burrillville, Rhode Island, on the countryside, was built in the 18th century. Things started off good until things suddenly changed and it got bad. After a few nights, the mother began losing sleep and reportedly seeing a woman who hanged herself. Carolyn, the mother, began speaking gibberish and had superhuman strength. After doing some research on the house, they found out that the house was home to a woman who sacrificed her son to the devil in a satanic ritual. Who knows if the spirits will ever leave here? This photo was taken of the house from the film The Conjuring and is similar to what the house of the Perrin family moved into.